Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Garu Moolasanaruda Mantritumani. Mage Mitra Vimalavira Disanayaka Mantrituma. Hati Dagana Avegashiliva Karapu Kataving Vinadi Visatula Vinadi Dekakvat Ayavagana Katagalina. අතීතය ගැන කතා කළා ගිය රජයේ කෙරුවාවල් ගැන කතා කරා නමුත් එතුමන් මගේ අවවාදය අහලා නැගෙනහිර පළාත් සභාවේ අපිත් එක්ක ඇමති කෙනෙක් හැටියට හිටියා නම් ඊට වඩා වටිනවා මොකද දක්ෂ ඇමති කෙනෙක් මිනිස්සුන් හොඳටම ආදරය කරනවා අම්පාර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ හොඳ සේවාවක් කරලා තිබෙනවා අම්පාර කොට්ටාසේ දින්න තමයි නමුත් අම්පාර දිස්ත්‍රික්කය පෙරදුනා මන්ත්‍රීතුමා. ඒ පෙරදීමට හේතුවත් ඔබතුමා දන්නවා. ඉතින් එහෙම තියෙද්දි මට කනගාටුයි මොකද දැන් ඉතින් උග්‍ර වේදනාවක් ඇති. ඒ හින්දා පොඩ්ඩක් ගිහිල්ලා වතුර බීලා හාන්සි වෙලා තව ඉතින් අවුරුදු 5ක් ඉන්න වෙනවා. ඉඳලා ඔව්. නෑ අපේ මිත්‍රයා ශ්‍රියාණිය මන්ත්‍රීතුමියත් එහෙමයි නෑ කවන්න. ඉතින් අපි 19 වෙනි ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම මේ සංශෝධනය හරහා ඇති කරගත්ත මේ විප්ලවීය වෙනස ගැන මම මුලින්ම කිව යුතුයි. මොකද ඒ වෙනස හරහා අපිට පුළුවන්කම ලැබිලා තියෙනවා දැන් විධායකගේ ඒකාධිපත්‍යයෙන් පොඩ්ඩක් ඉවත් වෙලා යම් දුරකට මේ අයවැය දිහා බැලුවා නම් අපිට හොඳටම තේරෙන දෙයක් තමයි මීට කලින් අවුරුදු 10ක් තිස්සේ අපි දැක්ක ඒ ක්‍රමවේදය ක්‍රියාදාමය දැන් හාස්පසින් වෙනස් වෙලා තිබෙනවා. මම ඒ පිළිබඳව දැන් මගේ කතාව පොඩ්ඩක් ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂෙන් කරන්න අවසරයි. කරනකොට මේ ගැන මම පැහැදිලි කරන්නම්. Mehemai, oh, Honorable Presiding Member, I must now, at the very outset, congratulate my Cabinet colleague, the Honorable Finance Minister, Ravi Karnanayaka. According to tradition, I must congratulate him for having presented his maiden budget. Now, his maiden budget has been presented in a situation where the world economy is shrinking. Today, the OECD economic outlook for November 15th has been published in today's papers, and it very clearly says the world economy is growing at a rate less than 3%. This is perhaps, according to them, is the slowest in the last 6 years. And added to that is the recession in Brazil, recession in Russia, and a slowing down of the Chinese economy. Indeed, so therefore, in this situation, we have got to be very realistic, far-thinking, and have got to be somewhat revolutionary in our approach. And that is what our Honorable Finance Minister has done in formulating this budget. At the outset, I must also thank the Honorable Prime Minister. Ever since January 8th, when we changed the regime and took over a new administration, the Honorable Prime Minister has given leadership through the Economic Affairs Subcommittee, which he chairs, to formulate economic policies that will synchronize with our budgetary proposals. And in that regard, we must also now look at His Excellency the President and his very own budget allocations. Now, if you look at the Honourable Presiding Member, the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa had virtually controlled the budget with almost 60% of the total budget estimates being controlled by him. Our current President, Honourable Maithripala Sirisena, has now reduced it to almost 12%. And this is a paradigm shift from the total control of the budget by presidency in the past. And the Presidential Secretariat too has maintained cost efficiencies that was introduced in the interim budget, with the total expenditure allocation of 2.3 billion rupees as against 9.5 billion spent by President Rajapaksa in the year 2014. So you can see the drastic difference in the way in which budgeted funds have been allocated to subjects that come under the presidential purview. Now, coming to the agricultural sector, Mr. Presiding Member, the introduction of buffer stock schemes to minimize post-harvest losses amounting to 30 to 40% annually is something that we have to appreciate. Warehouses will store and pay 50% to farmers, sorting cash flow, and once stored may be sold at a more favorable price. And this is another revolutionary scheme that has been introduced by our finance minister. අපේ කුෂි ආර්ථිකයේ විශාලතම ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි මේ අස්වැන්න අලෙවි කිරීමට තියෙන බාධකය. ඒ පිළිබඳව මීට පෙරත් මේ වගේ ගබඩා කිරීම සඳහා වූ මුදල් අපි වෙන් කරලා තිබුණත් කිසි විටක ඒක සාර්ථකව අපි ඉටු කළේ නැහැ, අනුගමනය කළේ නැහැ. මෙවරත් බිලියනයක් රුපියල් මිලියන 1000ක් වෙන් කරලා තිබෙනවා. විශාල ගබඩා සංකීර්ණ 3ක් ඇති කිරීම සඳහා පොළොන්නරුව, කිලිනොච්චිය, ඇඹිලිපිටිය ප්‍රදේශවල. මේ පිළිබඳව තව දෙයක් කිව යුතුයි. අම්පාර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ විශාලතම කුෂි ඇස්වැන්නක් හැම කන්නේකම ලැබෙන දිස්ත්‍රික්කයක මෙහෙම ගබඩාවක් පිළිබඳව මෙතන සඳහන් නොවීම පිළිබඳව මම සඳහන් කරලා ඒ පිළිබඳවත් ගරු මුදල් ඇමතුමා අවධානය යොමු කළ යුතුයි කියලා ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා. Then there is help provided to the farmer when it comes to providing fertilizer subsidy to small scale farms up to 1 hectare, covering a cash grant of 25,000. This came in for some heavy criticism by the previous speaker. මෙතනදිත් මම එක දෙයක් කියන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ඊයේ බෙන්තොටදී අපි වැඩමුළුවක් පැවැත්වුවා. ඒ වැඩමුළුවේදී අපේ මුදල් අමාත්‍යතුමා ඊටාම නම්‍යශීලීව අපේ ඉල්ලීමක් පිළිබඳව සලකා බලනවා කියලා එතුමා කියා හිටියේ. නම් අපි එතුමාගේ ඉල්ලීමක් කළා. ගොවි ප්‍රදේශ නියෝජනය කරන මන්ත්‍රීවරු හැටියට මගේ පක්ෂිනුත් මන්ත්‍රීවරු 4-5 දෙනෙක් මේ ගොවි ප්‍රදේශ නියෝජනය කරන මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් හිටියා. අපේ ඉල්ලීමක් තමයි මේ හෙක්ටර් 2.5 වෙනුවට අපි ඒක තවත් හෙක්ටර් 1ක් වෙනුවට එනම් අක්කර 2.5 වෙනුවට අපි අක්කර 5ක ප්‍රමාණයකට එක ගොවියෙකුට මේ මුදල ලබා දෙන්නයි කියලා ඉල්ලීමක් කළා. ඒ ගැන සලකා බලනවායි කියලා එතුමා කියා තියෙන එක පිළිබඳවත් මම මතක් කර සිටිනවා. මොකද ඒක මීට කලින් අපි ඒ පොහොර සහනාධාර ලබා දීමේදී මේ සහනය ඒ ගොවි මහතුන්ට ලැබිලා තිබුණා කියනත් අපි සඳහන් කළා. දැන් ඒ වගේම දැන් නිවාස ඉදිකිරීම ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ නිවාස ලක්ෂයක් ඉදිකිරීමේ මේ ක්‍රියාදාමය පිළිබඳව. The minister has proposed that 100,000 housing units through private-public partnerships within a period of 5 years to low-income urban dwellers, ensuring that relocation will not affect their livelihoods and social networks. This is an important aspect. The former government too engaged in an urban regeneration program by providing housing for the underprivileged urban poor who were living in what you call underserviced settlements, which are commonly known as slums. Now, Honorable Harsha De Silva in the morning in his speech referred to this important aspect of adhering to the involuntary resettlement policy when you resettle people from urban slums. The former Defence Secretary, when he was in charge of the Urban Development Authority, approached this issue without any humanitarian concern regarding these poor people. They were very forcibly evicted from some of their housing units. And they were forced to go and live in vertical housing. Even today, if you go and see all those flats that have been built up, their maintenance and the way in which they have been denied social space, deprived, being pushed away from their localities into faraway places, with their children having to attend schools in areas they were originally living from, with umpteen number of difficulties and basic facilities being denied to them. Though they are living in vertical housing, new houses, flats, they are not used to the vertical housing living conditions. So therefore, proper conditioning before embarking on such projects had resulted in serious social problems in most of these areas. So our government is not going to continue in the same way. We have decided to follow the involuntary resettlement policy when we resettle people in new housing units that we provided to these people. The other day, 5 of us ministers representing the Kandy area met together and decided to set up an urban regeneration program for people living in underserved settlements within the Kandy municipal limits. Mahiyava, Dayannavala, Katukale, these areas where people who depend on the livelihood around the city, particularly with the hospital around them, with the Kandy market there, and the municipality, all of them are working in all these different areas and also engaging in payment hawking. Now these people's living conditions have to be improved. Those lands in which they are living are commercially valuable land, but then when you release those land for private-public partnerships, you need to engage with them, talk to them, and provide them acceptable alternatives so that they will not be thrown far away from their living environment and be subjected to the misery that the Colombo slum dwellers were subjected to by the previous regime. So this is something that we propose to do. In fact, my ministry will be undertaking to also adopt a new urban regeneration program in other cities like Kandy. We'll start a next program in Kandy with these motives in mind. Similarly, Honourable Presiding Member, we also propose to do some extensive urban development programs through the Strategic Cities Development Project funded by the World Bank and the ADB. This project, which will initially be looking at Kandy, Galle and Trincomalee will subsequently be expanded to Anuradhapura, Jaffna and various other important cities. And we will also be looking at not simply housing alone, but the traffic congestion and improving the environment within the city so that we will provide a very pleasant living condition for people living within the city as well as those who come into those cities. We have also undertaken to implement a smart cities program, similar to what has been implemented by Prime Minister Modi in India. He had announced that 100 smart cities will be set up. Initially, our government proposes to look at about 10 important cities, and for the first phase, we will begin this process in Kandy. And therefore, and there is another important development which my honourable member representing the Ampara district, who is here from the Tamil National Alliance, had some reservations about our Kalmunai development program. Kalmunai நகர அபிவிருத்தி சம்பந்தமாகவும் கௌரவ பாராளுமன்ற உறுப்பினர் தமிழ் தேசிய கூட்டமைப்பின் சார்பிலே சில கருத்துக்களையும் சில விமர்சனங்களையும் சமர்ப்பித்திருந்தார்கள். கல்முனை நகர அபிவிருத்தி சம்பந்தமாக கௌரவ பிரதம மந்திரி அவர்கள் கடந்த தேர்தலின் பொழுது கொடுத்த வாக்குறுதியை நிறைவேற்றுவதற்கென்று இந்த வரவு செலவு திட்டத்திலும் அதற்கென்று ஒதுக்கீடுகள் செய்யப்பட்டிருப்பதை இட்டு நான் கௌரவ நிதியமைச்சருக்கு நன்றி கூற வேண்டும். ஆனால் கல்முனை நகர அபிவிருத்தி என்கிற செயல் திட்டத்தை நடைமுறைப்படுத்துவதற்கு முன்பு கல்முனையில் இருக்கிற தமிழ் முஸ்லிம் மக்களுக்கு இடையிலே நீண்ட காலமாக நிலவி வருகிற சில முறுகல்களின் காரணமாக இருக்கிற சில பிரச்சனைகளையும் அவர்களுக்கு இருக்கிற சந்தேகங்களையும் தீர்த்து வைத்து அதன் அடிப்படையிலே மக்களோடு சரியான கலந்துரையாடல்களை நடத்தி அந்த செயல் திட்டத்தை அறிமுகப்படுத்துவதற்கான முயற்சிகளை நாங்கள் செய்ய இருக்கிறோம் என்பதையும் நான் இங்கு சபையிலே குறிப்பிட்டாக வேண்டும். இவ்வாறு நாங்கள் பல இடங்களிலே வெவ்வாறு இந்த புதிய செயல் திட்டங்களை அறிமுகப்படுத்தி கொண்டு வருகிற அதே நேரம் சுகாதாரத்துறை சம்பந்தமாக இன்று புதிய சில நல்ல திட்டங்களை அறிமுகப்படுத்துவதற்கு கௌரவ நிதியமைச்சர் அவர்கள் நிதி ஒதுக்கீடு செய்திருக்கிறார்கள். இதிலே there is one other important expenditure item that has been proposed by the Honorable Finance Minister to build and equip 10 district-based stroke centers attached to tertiary care hospitals. No locations have been given, but I feel that when you set up 10 such stroke centers, now as you know, Honorable Presiding Member, stroke is one of those causes of death which is commonly prevalent in this country, and therefore the facilities in our peripheral hospitals in the periphery, particularly in the provinces, is not adequate. Therefore, the Honorable Finance Minister has provided provisions for 10 district-based stroke centers, and I presume one of these centers will be set up in the eastern province as well as the central province. And with those requests, I will also venture out to mention that the 1,000 kidney dialysis centers, because of the CKDU prevalent areas, these dialysis centers also will be strategically located in areas where you get high prevalence of the chronic kidney disease that we see in agricultural areas. As a matter of fact, my ministry, the water supply and drainage sector, is also a partner in the task force that is being headed by His Excellency the President, who has undertaken to see that this so-called chronic kidney disease will be eradicated as far as possible from these areas. Towards that, many initiatives are being implemented. In those initiatives, I am sure the allocations made in this budget is going to strengthen that process, and I must welcome that, including the construction of a hospital specializing in kidney disease and management in Min area. Then there is also provision to set up 3 cancer hospitals in Nallur, Kandy and Matara. All of us know the present facility in Maharagama is terribly overcrowded. And therefore, this serious disease that affects a large number of people in this country, cancer, has to be tackled in the provinces as well, and therefore one in the north in Nallur, one in the central province in Kandy, the other in the south in Matara, is a welcome proposal that we must appreciate. And therefore, a variety of such things together with the state-owned enterprises and their future is something that has been approached with certain novel proposals being put in place. As a matter of fact, as opposed to what the opposition members are trying to allude, I must say that they will never be privatized, but there is an attempt to set up a government-owned holding company similar to that of Temasek Holdings of Singapore. And this is a very good initiative, and therefore the shares of these enterprises will be passed on to a public wealth trust, where the secretary to the treasury and the governor of the central bank will be the custodians, and it will be managed by a board comprising of members from civil society, trade chambers and trade unions, who will be nominated by the Constitutional Council. And therefore, this initiative also must be complemented. Yes, I do. How many minutes have I?
20 minutes for you. Now time is over.
I have exhausted. Okay. Let me wind up, Honorable Presiding Member. Now, the appointment of professionals to boards of these state-owned enterprises, that's a very important thing. Up to now, these state-owned enterprises, some of them are in such state that they have to be restructured and reconstituted. Therefore, in this regard to all the state-owned enterprises that are lying dormant in many areas. Now, for instance, the Valachena paper factory, I was having a discussion with the Honorable Finance Minister. This is something that we can convert to some other important business activity in the area, so that it will be a boost to the area, so that these are all underperforming government institutions, and therefore foreign investment have to be brought in to complement these industries, and towards that several other proposals have been made in the budget. And while welcoming all these proposals and congratulating the Honourable Finance Minister for having given thought to a wide array of new reforms and having included them in this budget, I once again wish him all the very best in having presented this maiden budget to this Parliament.
Thank you very much. Thank you.